The monster within. The village sat quietly on the edge of a dark forest. The kind of place where the tall, ancient trees whispered secrets that no one dared to understand. Life had been peaceful once, cobblestone streets filled with laughter, glowing lanterns guiding families home in safety. But that peace was long gone. Now, as night suffocated the village in its eerie silence, fear was the only thing left. No one walked after sunset. They knew better. In the dead of night, a dark figure weaved through the shadows, a merciless hunter who turned the hunted into lifeless shells. This was Sasha, once the pride of the village, a beautiful girl with a kind smile and heart, beloved by everyone. Now, something else entirely. Her face, though distorted beyond recognition, still faintly bore the elegant features of her past. But her eyes, red, glowing, and primal, stripped away any sign of her former humanity. By morning, her victims lay scattered across the village, a grim reminder of the terror lurking in the shadows. Beneath the growing fear, whispers stirred quietly among the villagers. Why Sasha? Why had she become this nightmare, preying on the people who once adored her? No one had answers, only more questions. The villagers were broken, helpless against their tormentor. But as they cowered in their homes, a single voice rose above the despair. That of a boy with an undying resolve and a fire in his heart that burned too brightly to be extinguished. Rehan, a skinny boy draped in rags, stood at the edge of the trembling crowd. Unlike the rest of the villagers, he wasn't hiding. He wasn't praying for the nightmare to end. Instead, his sharp eyes watched, listened, planned. Ever since Sasha's reign of terror began, Rehan had been preparing. Not just to survive but to fight back. His tattered clothes and bare feet told the story of a boy born into nothing, but his spirit shone brighter than anyone dared to acknowledge. "They're all cowards, every one of them," Rehan muttered as he picked up a broken scythe from the workshop he now called home. "She's just an animal now. A monster. And someone has to stop her." But there was no audience to hear his declaration. The villagers had heard murmurs of his ambitions, but none of them took him seriously. To them, he wasn't a savior. He was just Rehan, the boy too poor, too lowly to ever make a difference. Rehan didn't care for their approval. Night after night, he ventured into the forest alone, training himself. He forged weapons out of scrap metal, crafting traps from broken tools. Each bruise, each failure, hardened his resolve. His first few attempts to trace Sasha's movements failed miserably, and she nearly caught him on more than one occasion. But he learned. One chilling night, he got closer than ever before. While tracking the beast's shadow, he heard the snap of a tree branch behind him. Before he could turn, she emerged, a nightmare of claws and fangs. Her face, still twisted with fragments of something familiar, froze him in place. He barely escaped with his life. But as his breath slowed and his heartbeat steadied, he realized she could be stopped. Rehan's growing confidence was tested when a figure from his past returned. Rahan, the older brother the villagers always talked about with awe, had come home. Rahan had left the village years ago, dissatisfied with its quiet simplicity. His travels had made him a warrior with a reputation for strength and cunning. When rumors of a monstrous threat reached his ears, he knew it was time to return. The entire village welcomed Rahan with reverence, their gazes full of hope and desperation. But for Rehan, his return reopened an old wound. Rahan's arrival added to Rehan's struggle. "I don't need your help," Rehan said coldly after their first meeting. "And what is your plan?" Rahan asked, arching an eyebrow. "Keep running into the forest with sticks? You are going to get yourself killed, little brother." Rehan bristled at the word. Little brother. To the villagers, to their family, that's all he'd ever been. A shadow to Rahan's greatness. The tension simmered between them, a spark waiting to ignite. But with Sasha terrorizing the village, the brothers had no choice but to work together. Rehan eventually conceded to Rahan's skills, even as their arguments carried an edge. They moved as one into the forest, following Sasha's trail. Her rampage had grown bolder, her path littered with chaos, uprooted trees, claw marks etched deep into bark, and ominous, twisted symbols scraped into the earth. "What are these?" Rahan muttered, pointing to the carvings. He didn't believe in curses or magic. He believed in the strength of steel and human resolve. But Rehan couldn't shake the feeling that there was something deeper tying Sasha to the monstrous force she'd become. Their instincts brought them face to face with her again. She moved faster than either of them anticipated, emerging from a cluster of trees with a bone-chilling roar. The brothers worked together like opposing forces. Rahan powered through brute strength, precise and methodical, while Rehan's quick thinking allowed them to adapt to Sasha's attacks. She lunged for Rehan, but as she towered over him, something unusual happened. Her glowing red eyes met his, and for a split second, humanity flickered in their depths. "Help," her voice rasped, more animal than human. The fight ended with neither side victorious. Sasha vanished, leaving the brothers shaken. Rehan refused to let the encounter shake his resolve. If anything, it confirmed his suspicions. Sasha wasn't just a mindless beast. She was still in there, trapped under the curse. Their exploration eventually led them to the old willow tree at the forest's center. Carved into its bark was Sasha's name, etched alongside another, a young man's name. Beneath the soil, they unearthed a locket containing a faded picture of Sasha and her lover, long buried by time. "That's it," Rehan murmured to himself, staring at the locket. She was betrayed. Something happened to her, and this curse fed on it. Rehan had little patience for such theories. "She's a killer, Rehan. Whatever happened to her before is irrelevant now. She's too dangerous to let live. No, this is why we have to save her." The locket unsettled them both. With newfound clues, the brothers moved forward, one bent on redemption and the other wary it would cost them their lives. To end the nightmare, the brothers set their final trap. They used fire to close off Sasha's paths of retreat, cutting her off from the forest and drawing her into an open glade. The inferno cast flickering shadows, heightening the tension. Sasha emerged, her monstrous form crouched low as she eyed them from the darkness. "Rehan, focus," Rahan shouted as Sasha pounced. The brothers fought with everything they had. Every swing of Rahan's blade was calculated, every move measured, while Rehan's unpredictable style worked to throw her off balance. For a moment, it seemed certain Sasha would overpower them both. But when Rehan dared to show her the locket mid-battle, something extraordinary happened. The glow in her eyes dimmed, her claws faltered. Her voice, shaking and guttural, stumbled as she said, "Save me." Rehan saw an opportunity. Against Rahan's protests, he dropped his weapon and reached for her. "I know you're still in there, Sasha. It's not too late." Rahan hesitated, torn between his duty as a warrior to strike her down and the possibility that his brother might actually be right. He stayed his blade, giving Rehan the chance he needed. The locket's presence triggered something within Sasha. A surge of light enveloped her, and the monstrous form slowly dissolved. The monster was gone, but the woman left behind wasn't the Sasha the village once knew. Fragile, scarred, and trembling, she stared at her hands as though they were foreign to her. The villagers gathered, their faces caught between relief and uncertainty. Some wept for her return, while others whispered accusations. "She killed them," one villager muttered. "She killed them all. Does she deserve to stay?" It was Rehan who stepped forward, battered but defiant. "She's one of us," he said. "She always was. She didn't ask for this." Rehan, silent until now, finally nodded his agreement. "The monster you knew is gone. Let her prove herself if she can. As the villagers debated among themselves, the brothers found a moment of reflection. You did it, Rahan said quietly. We did it, Rehan corrected, his lips curling into a faint smile. As dawn broke and the sun cast its first golden rays over the village, the darkness began to lift, not just from the land but from the hearts of its people. At the edge of the forest, Rehan and Rahan stood side by side, watching the forest grow still once more. What happens next? Rehan asked. We let them figure that out, Rahan replied, clapping his brother on the shoulder. But you've earned this. The brothers, now equals, vanished into the woods, leaving behind a village forever changed. Was Sasha's restoration redemption for all the evil done in her name? Or proof that even monsters deserve a chance to be saved? As the forest echoed its final silence, the answer lingered, haunting the edges of a fragile peace. The screen fades to black.